Hey everyone, so obviously by the title of today's video you know exactly what it's about. It's dark when I'm recording this because I have tried to film it. This is now my 4th time because I keep crying. And I just had a couple of hours break just to do things for me, and I think I'm ready to talk about it again. I'm gonna have very little editing, very little added into this video because I want it raw and real. You know, to me, like, I'd like to make jokes, but it's quite a serious topic, and so I'm just gonna try and strip back, hence like how the relaxed hair, relaxed makeup look for it. I still don't have a microphone as well. Done more apologies than a beauty YouTuber at this point, but yeah, this is just my story, and I want it to help other people, inspire other people, and just I want it to help me let everything out, because even the people I'm closest to, people who have known me for years and left, and people who are with me now and still with me after all these years, don't know the extent and they don't know everything in detail like I'm going to explain. So basically this is my story. It all started when I was 15. I was already quite depressed. I was hurting myself with sharp objects basically. I don't think you're really allowed to say the word on YouTube, but so I was doing that, and then when I was 15 in September, so I was going into year 11, I hated the way my school pictures looked. You know, I was getting picked on a little bit for my weight. My school wasn't like you get bullied all the time, but you'd get picked on for certain things. I still get picked on for certain things from some people I went to school with. I don't know why, they just enjoy it, clearly get a kick out of it, and that's just how it is. So I said to myself, I'm gonna lose some weight, I'm gonna look skinny, I'm gonna look amazing like everyone else. I want to be pretty like so-and-so, I want to have the body of so-and-so, and you know, like I just didn't want to be self-conscious anymore, because even when I was doing PE, I hated getting changed in front of everyone. I used to be always that person that would run to the toilets to get changed because I just hated people looking at me in that way when you're getting changed. It's just, I don't think girls mean to do it, but sometimes like you're talking to them and then they're getting changed and you just end up looking, and I just didn't want people to look at me because I was so self-conscious about my weight. So I stopped eating breakfast and lunch. I didn't really eat breakfast anyway, and I just ate tea at home. Now, whatever my mum cooked, she always cooks from scratch, she's a great cook, I'll give it to her. But obviously it wasn't enough considering I was walking to school, from school, around school, upstairs, downstairs. I was doing PE sometimes, but I was losing weight, and I started getting like nice compliments. Oh, you look well, you look healthy, your body's nice, your face looks nice, you know, you look bright. And I was like, oh great, people are giving me compliments, absolutely love it. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just carry on, you know, I just need to start losing weight. And at this point I was still thinking clearly, but I wasn't really happy just eating once a day. You know, I was hungry, but I just kind of pushed it aside, and I was like, right, I need to do this for me, and I need to do it so everybody else approves of me, which is such not a good way to think, but that is just how I think. I mean, I still kind of think like this to this day. So, but in November I ended up developing glandular fever. If you know what glandular fever is, it's basically like tonsillitis and the flu put together and about 5 times worse. I'm prone to throat infections and ear infections, so it came no surprise to me that I ended up getting this eventually. So I was eating about a tin of soup, all those pasta sauces, just one of them a day, and that was it. Obviously I wasn't exercising, I was staying in bed all day because I was so ill, but it's still not enough. You know, you need to eat more than that, especially when you're ill, because your body needs to fight for infection. So I ended up having this for 2 weeks, I think. I went to the doctors and everything, and I was just in bed for about 2 weeks. And then it came to just December, running up to Christmas. We were meant to do our mock exams, but if you know, and where I live, we had the floods and nowhere was open. Schools weren't open, everywhere was flooded. So we didn't have them mock exams, and we were all absolutely buzzing about it. Even though the school was flooded, we were absolutely buzzing that we didn't have to do our mock exams. But I am more happy because I could not do a full day at school for a while. I had to do half days, mornings or afternoons, and if I did do a full day I'd have to go straight to bed after school, and I'd wake up at 6, 7 at night to have my tea, and that would be it. And even then I still was just eating my tea because my mum cooked for me. Then Christmas came, and because I ended up losing weight, I was like a healthy weight at this point. I wasn't overweight before, but I was like a little bit, I had like all that puppy fat on you that you get I wasn't the skinniest, and you know, but it did make me feel self-conscious because obviously we had to have, in year 11, for some reason they decided in year 11 we had to now have clip-on ties. So obviously when you have your shirt buttoned up and you have like your tie, like all your face fat just like pushes up and it just looks horrible. Like, I've still got that picture downstairs from like all my year 11 photos, and I just hate it. I want it down all the time, and I'm like, why am I looking at it? I hate it. My favourite photo of me is from year 5 from my school pictures. That is just how much I hated myself so much, and hated my body and how I just looked all the time. Constantly hating myself. Like, I'm self-conscious about that tooth as well, and I did go for braces the end of 2015 as well, and they just told me that it would sort itself out. It was 1 millimetre under the guideline for braces. Fantastic. Yeah, so that was just how that was. But when Christmas came, because I hadn't eaten a lot, I ended up just kind of a bit binging a bit because I didn't know how to control myself around food. Control yourself. So I just ended up binging a lot of rich foods, a lot of nourishing foods, and obviously everyone experiences this around Christmas. You get bloated and a little bit digestive problems because of all this rich food you've been eating, but for me it was 10 times worse than it is on most years. So basically what we do is we have a Christmas Eve pie, which is a buffet, Christmas Day, and then Boxing Day we usually go out to the Carvery or something. So I ate all this food on Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day I didn't eat anything, and everyone got annoyed with me obviously because I wasn't like ruining Christmas in their minds by just feeling ill, not eating. I remember I think I wasn't sick on that day, on Christmas Day, but I just remember thinking to myself, I look horrible, I'm so bloated, I hate my body, I hate the way I look, I hate this and that and the other. So I was like, when Christmas is over, we're just gonna ditch it and we're just gonna lose weight again and we're just not gonna eat, basically. And in January, at the beginning of January, my mum got a foot operation, so she couldn't really stand up or walk around for a good few weeks. So I was doing the cooking, the cleaning, the housework, you know, I was doing practically everything around the house, which included cooking. So I started cooking for us, and I was like, I downloaded the MyFitnessPal app and I was making my food without cooking oil, and I was using like slimmer versions of things and counting everything to the gram with weighing scales. It got really obsessive from then onwards. You know, I ended up starting losing weight, but I noticed I was getting slower and slower mentally and physically. You know, my grades were starting to just slip a little bit because I was an A-star, A-B student. Like I was in all those top sets. And then my birthday came, and I saw a picture from my birthday that I did put on Facebook many years ago, and my face looks drawn, my eyes look bigger than the rest of my face, and so does my mouth. I just didn't look like a human. And I remember I had a few friends around because it was my 16th, and I just remember not eating my cake, not eating much of the buffet food, ate a bit of it, and I felt full. But then again, I also probably felt full because I was so disgusted at myself with what I'd eaten, and I just didn't eat the cake, I didn't eat anything everybody else ate. And I still think at that point nobody knew what was going on, even though I was getting slimmer. From my birthday to April, like Easter half term, that was when I just really started to rapidly lose weight, because I was starting to have like just a tin of soup a day, and I'd eat soup every day, as much, or every day I possibly could or was allowed to, until Easter. And in Easter we went on holiday to the Isle of Skye. It's one of the reasons why we moved to Cumbria, so we could be closer to Scotland and the Lake District. And I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to kick myself out of this now. I'm going to eat now. I'm happy with the way I am. You know, I was about 45 kilograms for my age and height and genetics. 45 kilograms was not healthy. For me, now, I'm currently now 56. Before I started losing weight, I think I was just about 60. So it just wasn't healthy for me. I'm not saying it's not healthy for everyone. You know, some people's genetics are different and their height and their age makes a difference to their weight. But for me, genetically, it just wasn't healthy. And this was the point where I lost my period. So yeah, so I went on holiday with my mum's friend, and I started doing some really horrible, weird behaviours. Please just skip for a minute or so if you are easily triggered. Because I don't want to go into too much detail about it either, because I don't want to give tips on how to do it, but I was kind of like scraping food off my plate into my lap so then I could like thrush it down the toilet or hide it or put it in the bin. I was just eating really slowly and chewing a certain amount of times before swallowing, having so much water between food. I was just throwing it out the car if we went on a car trip. you know, and wasn't me. I don't know what I was thinking, because that's just such a horrible thing to do. And my mum's friend found out, and my mum got concerned, and I was crying. I was saying, oh mum, I don't need to go to the doctors, this, that and the other. Now looking back, I didn't think there was anything wrong with me at the time, but there clearly was, because I said to myself, I'm gonna snap myself out of this, and I didn't. And it carried on for the whole week. It was miserable. I was always cold. I hated getting up every day. I hated the fact that I had to eat every day. That's just how it was. So when we got back, my mum got in contact with the GP. Now, this was probably one of the biggest mistakes a doctor has made. I ended up being, in May, 30 kilograms, extremely low. I was in this thing called the danger zone, where you should be in a wheelchair and you could collapse and go into cardiac arrest any minute, basically. And he weighed me and he said, oh, well, all scales are different and all people are different, and then just said there's nothing that I'm going to do. Now, considering for my age, height and genetics, that was like not healthy for me by at least 20 kilograms, maybe even 25. What was he thinking? What was that man thinking? But anyway, apparently he did it to another girl, and he went on a course for eating disorders, thankfully, but I don't know if he's still doing it. I'm just refused to see him. If I ever ring up the doctors, I'm like, hi, can I have an appointment? They're like, oh, Dr. so-and-so. And I'm like, no, can be someone else, please, because I just don't want to have someone so dismissive of my problems, just because I think I'm not saying all doctors, some doctors just think of medical sides and sciencey sides rather than mental sides. I mean, I guess my physical appearance was obviously not well, but I just think he was very, very dismissive of what my weight was at the time and who I was and what I was dealing with. But I was still in denial as well. But I did know that I was in such a low weight. I couldn't think. I wasn't turning to school that much. I was just skiving all the time because I didn't have the energy or the physical capacity to go to school. My friends, bless their souls, I'd like join them for lunch and they'd be like, why aren't you eating? And I just was tired of coming up with excuses and changing friends groups and who I was going to lunch with. So I just ended up just not going to school, or going to school just for a morning or just for an afternoon. So in May, that I was just constantly on a downhill. I was probably not eating for 3 days at a time and then eating maybe 200 calories on the day I was allowed to eat, and I was drinking black tea. If you drink black tea, don't talk to me. Black tea is disgusting. If you get with sugar, you might just get away with it. But black tea, I was drinking that and it just was horrible and dry. It's like you drink caffeine for the energy and you drink alcohol not for the taste to get drunk. It was like that for me, but just so I didn't have to consume many calories, which was an unhealthy way of thinking, unlike where alcohol is just like I just want to get drunk. But in June, I managed to see Cam's counsellor. I saw 3 counsellors, told my story 3 times. For anybody, that would be exhausting. So yeah, exhausting for anybody, let alone me, who was just unable to think. I was doing my GCSEs at the time. I think in May, I only did a few. So in June, I did most of them, and I was just in this like hole that there was no way out. Anybody wondering why I had a cushion when I was doing my exams is because I had no arse, and you know, obviously sitting down for 2 hours on hard chairs long anyway, so when it was me, I needed a cushion. I was allowed a cushion. But I was in hospital. I was then Cam's people admitted me to the general hospital. So basically they told me, my mum, that we were going for some checkups, so we went to the hospital and they were like, oh, well, where's your stuff? You need to stay in. And we were like, huh? What? I gotta stay in? But obviously I didn't have all my stuff, so they let me go home, and they just, I went in a few days later, and obviously I was still declining at this point. I think I was about 28 kilograms when I was first weighed in the general hospital. With me doing my exams and being such a perfectionist and this was happening to me, I was extremely stressed, but I did not have the energy to be stressed, the energy to cry. I was just a mess. All I was thinking about is how am I going to go to school and how am I going to exercise and how am I going to get away with doing what I'm doing when I was in the general hospital. That was all I was concerned about. I was still doing some things in the hospital that were not right, like hiding food and getting rid of it and this, that and the other. I was woken up a few times in the night in the general hospital because my heart was about 12 beats a minute, and they were like, Maddie, you can't go to sleep, you've got to stay awake because your heart's failing. And I was just like, well, I'm tired. Like, I was always tired, I was always wanting to sleep. And I think I ended up just then I ended up being told that I was going to a hospital 200 miles away, specialised for my eating disorder, my problem. I cried. I got the snooker balls from the snooker table because I was on the children's ward, and I threw them at the wall and I dented the wall. I am not proud of this to this day at all, because it's just not who I am. And you know, as well as when I was being let out to go into school to do my exams, I was able to get out, go to town, and I was doing stealing. I was stealing like makeup and nail varnish and just jewellery and all this kind of stuff. I got away with it surprisingly, but I don't understand why I was doing that, because that's not me at all. People know that's not me. I'm ashamed of it to this day. I wish I could just give it all back at the end of the day, but I didn't. I ended up not knowing what I stole and what I didn't, because I just had so much stuff. And I also, because I was being given money for food that I wasn't eating, I had like about £300 saved up from dinner money and all this stuff, and I'm just not proud of that time in my life. I don't like to think about it, but sometimes I dream about being extremely skinny, not being able to think, and stealing and being caught, and yeah, it was just really stressful for me. Apparently there is a link between eating disorders and stealing. There's not much evidence, but I would quite like to do my own research for that. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I would quite like to do it, considering on an applied psychology course. Might be quite good. But on the Tuesday of the Leavers Day, I was told, we're just going to ship you off 200 miles away to another hospital. So I cried, I did the snooker ball thing, I was doing the stealing. So everyone else was having a great time, and there I was practically dying. But I will admit there were a few friends who did come and see me, and I'm forever grateful that they came to see me. It's amazing that some people still stuck by me through all that. I was told I couldn't go to prom because if I stood up I'd just probably faint and go into cardiac arrest. So I was shipped off to the hospital on the Friday. Now obviously there are some people who say to me, you weren't that bad, were you? It's not that bad, you don't have any problems. My heart was failing. I think it was quite bad. So I got to the hospital, I was taken in an ambulance. All I remember, it was dark. It felt dark going in my memory. I was wheeled in on a little wheelchair because my weight was so low that I couldn't stand up, and I sat down with some specialists and some counsellors and some nurses who were in the ward, and they were like, don't try anything because we'll know. And I thought, hi to you too, nice welcome. And then I remember being wheeled into the living room and everybody just stared at me, all the other patients, and I was like, oh my god, they all look like me and it doesn't look healthy. And I just kind of had a click at that point where I was like, oh my god, I have to get better. I am not staying here. I am not doing this. Obviously everyone stares at you when a new patient comes in. I'm not saying anything bad about anybody who's there. I still know some of them. Some of them are absolutely lovely. Some of them have had such a hard time. Some of them have been there for ages. And you know, I see them and I'm forever proud of them because they have gone through so much and they are amazing now. Bad days, good days, I will always support the people who I was in that hospital with because we were all in it together at the end of the day. I mean, obviously, when you were all eating together, you had like stages, stage 1, 2 and 3. One was kind of like the people who didn't really eat like the foods they were served, and they usually had to have like 40 sips, which is like a high calorie dense drink. And then you had stage 2 and stage 3. Stage 3 you were meant to be able to serve your own food and drink, but half of the time they would just do it for you anyway. I don't think they trusted you really. But as you always start in stage 2 and then you move up to stage 3. But even in stage 3, there was sometimes people who didn't eat or tried to like push the food around the plate to like make it look like they'd eaten it all when they hadn't. And obviously that rubs off on you. You know, if everyone's doing well, you're going to do well. If everyone's struggling, you're also going to struggle. I just tried to do what I had to do because the idea of having those horrible high calorie drinks or being tube fed and having some up my nose, my worst fear. I was like, I'm not having that happen to me. Not at all. But as well as that, you know, there was the heavy doors opening and shutting at night. They would poke their little torch through to see if you're sleeping, and it's like, I'm trying to sleep here and you're poking your torch through. But I think I slept quite early because we had to be up by like 8 o'clock for breakfast at 8:15. And then also sometimes you would hear alarms ringing, you'd hear people being restrained. It was a really bad time for me. And that was when I started getting nightmares about being wheeled into the hospital, about the restraints, about the noise, about just being there in general, because I was so far away from home that I hardly had any visitors. I had one friend, she came through. I'm so thankful for that I really needed that. I had my family come through occasionally, not very often though, because they had to come and stay in a hotel, but the ward did pay for them to stay in the hotel, which I'm really surprised at. They also paid for taxis for people to go home at the weekend. Obviously, I wasn't allowed home until I got out of the wheelchair, but when I got out of the wheelchair, I cried because I was like, I can go out of this hospital and do things with everyone else, because there were activities, there were day activities, to go on a drive, you could go to the park, you could do like some other things. It wasn't like you were always stuck in every day, but most days you'd be doing mindful colouring for 12 hours and the TV on. It was just really hard. I mean, there were some lovely nurses who always tried to do activities and take you out, and we all had our favourites and our people we didn't like. Other nurses, we were just like, why are they doing this job? They obviously don't care. They just want to brag about their own lives. But there were some nurses, my key nurse personally, she was lovely. I felt like I could talk to her about anything, and there were some other nurses that I felt like I could talk to about anything. There was one nurse that I liked and everybody else disliked. I don't know why, but I did like her. So when I finally got out of the wheelchair, I was allowed to go home on weekends, so I started off with just one night, and then like a Saturday to Sunday, and then I started doing Friday to Sunday for a few weeks, and then I did a Friday to Monday, and then I went to see my auntie. All the days where we could go to Spoons and just not wear masks and meet with several people, the days. But so I did that, and then I was like, it was the end of summer, and I was just been there for 12 weeks, and I was like, I got a holiday prepared with my mum, and I was like, I want to leave. I was an informal patient, so that was why I was allowed to leave when I wanted to. I didn't have to get written consent. If you don't comply and don't go in voluntarily, they put you on a section 2, which is where you have a 30-day assessment, and usually after that section 2 you get a section 3, which is 6 months practically being told what you can and can't do. So I decided to leave. I left on, like, they told me that I shouldn't have really left because I still had a lot to do. So you had like that red zone where it was like you should be in the danger zone, where you should have like be in a wheelchair, which is red. Then you had amber, then you had green, blue, and then gold, which was your optimum weight. I was like green, virgin on blue at the time when I left, so I wasn't extremely skinny. I was able to do things and move around. So I went on the holiday. Everyone knew what kind of meal plan that they had and how many calories they had to eat, because it was just on your meal plan. Everybody knew everything about that ward in some way. There were always secrets, but everybody always ended up knowing. So I knew what I had to eat, my mum didn't. So what I ended up doing was eating too much. I gained weight, quite a rapid weight. I ended up reaching my optimum weight, and then I did start like leveling off, because what your body does is I was having like 4,000 calories a day. My body just got used to it, so metabolism was extremely fast. Then after the holiday, when I got into college, I made the mistake of stopping eating because I was unhappy with the way I looked. Obviously that slowed my metabolism right down. I wasn't losing any weight. When I got home from college, sometimes I'd eat like half a loaf of bread or toast, and got quite bad. And then one day I just snapped myself out of it, and I was like, I need to eat, I need to do energy, because I was I know at college I was petite, like I was healthy, but I was really, really small. I did a lot of cardio at the gym. So this on and off eating's gone on for a while, but recently I've ended up gaining muscle, smaller waist. I do a lot of weightlifting. I bought my own weights at home as the gyms are closed. But this experience for me, I still get nightmares, panic attacks. I think about it all the time. My brain blocked out most of it, which is why it's taken me so long to make this video 5 years on, because memories are still coming back to me from this time. I don't even remember the twice a week weighing that we had. Apparently people were telling me that I used to try and put on weight by wearing my jewellery and refusing to take it off. I don't even remember that still. So I still struggle to this day, 5 years on. I look healthy. People say, oh, you look healthy, you look amazing, but mentally sometimes I'm not okay. I've got a good support system. I'm just gonna, the more you do it, the more you eat, the day you decide to fight, it kind of gets pushed further and further back. But at the end of the day, I think it's always going to be there. I don't think it's ever going to go away. I will still have good days, I will still have bad days, and I hope that other people that I know have gone through this are doing okay. It's really hard because you just want to give someone a hug at the end of the day, because you don't know exactly what it's like unless you've experienced it, because some people like just eat. It's like not that simple. It is really not that simple. And I've met so many lovely people through sharing such an awful experience. Unfortunately, I've had to meet them through that way, but I've met some lovely people and I couldn't have been happier that I have met them. So I'm just going to try and carry on. Hopefully the nightmares will go away one day. I don't sleep sometimes because of it, but gotta do what you gotta do and you gotta carry on. Thanks very much for watching it all the way through.